Sandra Smith, President Trump blocking the House Speaker from boarding a military plane just before she and a congressional delegation were set to take off, explaining in a curt letter that she is free to fly commercial or stay back and negotiate. Both sides digging in.
Why would she want to go overseas with government shut down, with people missing their paychecks? And if we don't get this back open, they could miss their paycheck again.
I think the actions of the president were petty, mean-spirited, and beneath any president of the United States to take.
It's been a back and forth deal that Speaker Pelosi began. Really doesn't help anything at all.
To tell the enemies of the United States that the third person in line to the presidency, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, is on her way to a war zone. It's pretty outrageous.
We're not going to allow the President of the United States to tell the Congress it can't fulfill its oversight responsibilities.
She should be staying here to negotiate to get this place back open. It's the Democrats that are keeping keeping everything closed, and so that's a perfectly good reason for him to want her here.
Kevin Corke is kicking things off for us at the White House, a snowy White House this morning. Kevin, good morning.
Morning. And let me just say it this way. There are more than a few people here, Sandra, as you can imagine, that are thrilled by the president's actions, even though the official line is this was not a tit for tat. Let me just share a bit of that letter that you talked about, the president making it very clear. Look, Nancy Pelosi, you can still go on your trip, knock yourself out, but you're going to have to fly commercial. This is what part of the clapback that was all played out yesterday. One of the things it says here is in light of the 800,000 great American workers not receiving pay, I'm sure you would agree that postponing this public relations event is totally appropriate. He added this, I also feel that during this period, it would be better if you were in Washington negotiating with me and joining the strong border security movement to end the shutdown. And with that, it was off the buses for the other congressional delegation members and presumably back to work to end the shutdown, which, as you know, is now a month long.
I'm just shocked she'd even think that she would leave the country. Why would you leave the country with government shut down and you're Speaker of the House?
Too often in the last 2 years, the president has acted like he's in the 5th grade. And to have someone who has that kind of character running the country is an enormous problem at every level. And we see it now. We've seen it over the last 2 years, and my guess is we're going to see it in the future.
Sandra, there had been some question about whether or not the White House officials would travel to Davos despite the suspension of congressional delegation travel. Well, Sarah Sanders answered that for us yesterday in writing. Out of consideration for the 800,000 great American workers not receiving pay and to ensure his team can assist as needed, President Trump has canceled his delegation's trip to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. That, according to Sarah Sanders. So no Davos and no Codell for the time being, Sandra.
For now. Kevin, meanwhile, is there any White House reaction yet to this BuzzFeed News report on the president's former attorney, Michael Cohen?
Yeah, this is that line that you and I have talked about at length, the line between what White House counsel might have to say about something and what the president's private attorneys might have to say about it. Now, for the folks at home who haven't seen this piece in BuzzFeed, it is single-sourced, and it paints Michael Cohen as a dutiful lawyer who was ordered to lie to Congress about then private citizen Trump's business development dealings in Russia. But the president's private attorney, Rudy Giuliani, feeling a bit pithy this morning, perhaps sent this to Fox News, and I quote, "If you believe Cohen, I can get you a great deal on the Brooklyn Bridge." Of course, Cohen will testify before lawmakers again next month in what should be a Washington circus, to be sure. But don't forget, he's already been convicted of perjury and fraud. And as recently as this week, the Wall Street Journal suggested that he may have absconded with thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, stealing it from the Trump organization. So you can imagine how the White House feels about what he has to say to anyone.
Right, Kevin Corke at the White House this morning. Thank you.
Let's bring in the former governor, Mike Huckabee, former governor of Arkansas, Fox News contributor. Governor, good morning to you. I want to show you the New York Post cover if you haven't seen it yet today. It reads simply, "You're grounded." Are they playing checkers or are they playing chess?
They're playing hardball, Bill, and that's the game that Nancy Pelosi started when she took the unprecedented step of saying, don't come over to the House for the State of the Union because it may not be safe, even though she never checked with anybody to see whether there was a problem with security. So when you start that game, you better understand that Donald Trump is always going to play on the same level of field. He's just going to play as rough as anybody else plays. And anyone who didn't get that during the presidential process and watch him excoriate 16 candidates, including me, or watch him take down Hillary Clinton, why don't people understand this? He is not a guy that runs over to the corner and bites his lip and puts a tear in his eye. He's going to come out swinging. And I thought it was the appropriate response. I thought it was not only appropriate, and I thought it was very revealing that they were going to go on this 7-day junket right in the middle of a shutdown, which shows that they really don't care about 800,000 government workers. They care about themselves, and they care about stopping Trump. But it was also very, very funny.
Well, you would disagree with Lindsey Graham and what he said then. Here's what the senator from South Carolina.
Yes, I would. I totally
here's his quotes, Governor. One sophomoric response does not deserve another. Speaker Pelosi's threat to cancel the State of the Union is very irresponsible, blatantly political. President Trump denying Speaker Pelosi military travel to visit our troops in Afghanistan, our allies in Egypt and NATO is also inappropriate. Continue, Governor.
Well, I love Lindsey, but he's wrong. He's dead wrong about this for a couple of reasons. One, if you want to end the government shutdown, you cannot do it when the Speaker of the House, who has to call for a vote and who has to be involved in the negotiations, is gone for 7 days. That is going to absolutely prolong the shutdown. Lindsey is an institutionalist, and I understand that. Most legislators are. They want to defend their branch of government, and I get that. But this was not something that the troops overseas are dying to have. They can have that visit. They can take that wonderful excursion after they get the government back open. But it wasn't something that was pressing for them to do right now. And as the president said, if it's really this urgent for you, do what I do every day of the week. Get on a commercial flight. They go everywhere, including Afghanistan.
Okay. Ed Rollins writes this at foxnews.com. I'll just read you the headline, okay? If Trump thinks Pelosi will back down when he counterpunches, he's going to be very surprised. What do you think of that, and ultimately who makes rather the next move, Governor?
Well, I've watched both of them fight. They're both good fighters. They're both experienced at fighting, and they both kind of enjoy it. But I've never seen anyone like Donald Trump when it comes to a person who, once he gets in the fight, he does not go over to the corner, ever. This is a guy who just keeps punching until the other side is either pummeled or just is tired of the battle. So, you know, if you want to ask me who do I bet on, that's an easy one. I would bet with the president on this one. And it's not about who wins the fight. Quite frankly, I'm disgusted with the whole thing. I want him to get the government back open. I want them to end this really ridiculous fight. We've spent more money in the government shutdown than the president was asking for in the original $5.7 billion.
You're right about that. I thought Brexit was confounding.
It's ridiculous.
We'll see the way we get out of this one. Sir, thank you for your time. Have a wonderful week.